Is this a pandemic of fear or a pandemic of virus? The numbers just don't add up. If you take a look at the past and how this virus came to be, it came out of Wuhan and then it spread throughout the world, and it spread very quickly. And when you look at the numbers that scientists talk about in terms of how quickly this has moved, and yet how many people get infected by those that are infected, those numbers don't add up, at least the numbers that were used in the past. They said that people that had the virus possibly infected 2.5 other people that had the virus. Recent studies have really shown that it looks like maybe the people that don't show that they have the virus, the asymptomatic people, are infecting up to 15.5 people for every person that has asymptomatic or limited symptoms of the coronavirus. Those that don't go to the doctor, or those that don't show signs other than what they would think would be a normal cold, the normal flu, or allergies. So when I took a look at the numbers that were coming out of Wuhan and then Italy, I couldn't see the same death rates that they were projecting, or that the ones that the media projects. The media talks about death rate based on the people that actually ended up in the hospital. And that's horse crap. That's not really the death rate amongst the general population. In fact, when I ran the numbers, the general population death rate might be between 0.05 and 0.1% of the population of a country that would be potentially dying from this virus. That's a very small, it's a large number, but it's a small percentage. And we really need to look at how we're reacting to this type of a virus. This is not going to be the first time we have this type of virus, nor will it be the last. We need to really focus on the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. And right now we have basically shut down the majority of the economies for a great part of the world in order to protect a very small, limited portion of the population that may die from this coronavirus. But we are jeopardizing the livelihoods and the futures of 99.9% of the people in the world. Does that make sense? I suggest no. I suggest that we should not have closed the economies. We should not have locked down people. We should let the virus run its course and recognize, yes, there's going to be deaths, but that the number of deaths that may occur due to this virus are very small compared to the rest of the world that has to live in the mess that's created due to the economic struggles that are going to exist for years to come. In fact, as experts have said, we are going to experience a recession or economic depression worldwide that is going to be far greater than the one that we experienced in 2008, very likely approaching or exceeding that of the Great Depression. Why? Because our governments have gone through knee-jerk reactions without looking at the broader picture of what was going to happen based on the actions that they were taking. We need to refocus our attention on the lives of those that will hopefully eventually thrive again in the future, as opposed to just the small number of people that are dying. We don't freak out when 80,000 people die from a flu in a year. We don't freak out when millions of people die from cancer in a year. And yet we're freaking out because there's a small number of people that are going to die from this coronavirus. And when I say small number, based on the numbers that I looked at, I'm saying that we're only looking at 0.1% of the population that may die from this. What does that amount to? In the United States, that would amount to 330,000 people dying from this coronavirus. And I think that that's going to happen regardless of whether we do this social distancing and isolation or not. When they talk about flattening the curve, that doesn't mean that they're eliminating the number of people that die. It actually means that they're just spreading it out over a longer period of time. Understand, The reason that they're doing that is because they're saying that there's a limited number of critical care facilities and critical care beds that can take care of people that come down with a serious form of the virus, which may be less than 20% of the people in the population. But we are not stopping the virus. I mean, flattening the curve doesn't stop the virus, it slows it down, it drags it out. And until we get enough people in the population that have been exposed to the virus to be able to create a herd type immunity where we have a natural immunity to this coronavirus, we're going to continue to have these flare-ups. And in fact, they're talking about, and if you look at the original report on this COVID virus, when they talked about a high peak and trying to flatten the curve, they also showed that if you flatten the curve, you're going to see a peak later on. It may not be as high because you've already had some people that had it, but you're going to see another peak. That's coming up in the latter part of this year. It could be coming up as early as August. And I think it's going to flow through the United States as more of a tidal wave. It's going to go through one part of the country like it has in New York and New Jersey, and then it's going to go over to another part of the country. As we open up the doors, this virus is going to flare up again. What we could have done is left the doors open, used a process of educating our people on the reality of what's going on, not scaring them to death that we are going to die if we get the virus. That's absolutely ludicrous and very far from the truth. But if you go out and ask many of the people, they're afraid that if they get the virus, they're going to die. That's not the case. And this is because of the way that the governments have publicized what's going on, these task force, this knee-jerk reaction of shutting down a greater part of the economy, locking people in place, forcing social distancing without educating people as to how this and what this is really going to do. We also have the media that's out there sensationalizing this because they're looking for viewership. Whether you believe it or not, broadcasting stations get paid by viewers. So reporters are out there reporting things that are going to try to draw more people to their broadcasting station. They're sensationalizing numbers without really reporting them accurately or without reporting them in the right context. How do I know this? I wrote a paper on this back in mid-March after the report came out that the United States and most of the world is using to justify why they're shutting things down. And when I tried to present that report to the news media, I was either told, oh, that's nice, you know, it's another way of looking at things, but thank you, but no thanks. Or in one case, I was told, we can't touch that report because it's against the direction and the perception of our news station. They want to create sensational news so that people watch the news and then they can get paid by the ads. So what am I saying right now? I'm saying, look, we need to look at the needs of the many over the needs of the few. I am going to generate another video which has a lot of justifications. It shows the report, parts of the report that were used to create this reaction that's taking place, and also to justify more of what I'm saying. But I think that right now we need to really look at what's going on in society, what's going on in the news, and to be able to provide a different perspective on the coronavirus, one that's based on the actual numbers that we're seeing in the general population, not the population that just was diagnosed with it or are in the hospital. And we need to focus on the fact that it is our natural immune system that is going to really save the human race, not a vaccine, not some sort of medical treatment, but let's let that virus move across the population, build a herd immunity. 99.9% of the people are going to survive. Let the virus flow. And also, let's look at our focus. Let's focus again on our stress levels, the way that we can create more certainty and stability in people's lives, as opposed to creating uncertainty and instability and kicking people out of their jobs, losing the livelihoods of a very large part of our population because of these knee-jerk reactions that are going on. Where focus goes, energy flows. If we continue to push these negative things out through the news without talking about the real positive aspect of it, showing that there's only 0.1% of the population that may die and 99.9% of the population that will live, we create stress in people's lives. Stress reduces people's immune system. We need to help people increase the strength of their immune system so that they can survive and thrive with this virus that's not going to go away. This virus is going to be a part of humanity for a long time to come, if not forever. So let's take action and change this from being a pandemic of fear back to a pandemic that's just a virus, that viruses occur throughout humanity, and that we do not curl up and hide or crawl into a cave or say that we can't do anything about it individually, when in fact it's the individuals that have the greatest capability of fighting this virus. Right now, we need to look more at the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that the only thing to fear is fear itself. Now, if you want to hear more about details, you want to hear about the numbers, you want to see the graphs, tune into my other video, which is going to have a lot more of that. It's going to be a longer video because I'm providing you with additional information to be able to make your own decisions. But I suggest that right now we need to fight this more as a war. We need to recognize that there are casualties in war, and we need to recognize that we can win this war. But as long as we are afraid, as long as we continue to push fear as opposed to hope, we are going to create a bigger and bigger challenge to our societies, to our countries, to our livelihoods, to our economies, and to our people, and the lives of the people that are still going to be here, 99.9% of the lives, as opposed to making everybody afraid that they're going to die. Please tune into my next video, get a better understanding of what's going on so that you can talk to others about how this is really being blown out of proportion by the government and by the media, and how that we can take this back and move forward with life and recognize that the longer that we have to deal with this the way that the governments are, the more pain we're going to experience in the future. Thank you very much. I'm Brett Gordon, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye now.